Okay, so this is behind the scenes stuff. Cool. Yay. So my business is at a point where it is sustained. I will be able to keep going and I have a direction. However, my brain likes to do other things. It enjoys exploring ideas, which if like my outward exploration of my ideas has been my business for basically the whole entire time. However, I now have a direction. I now have a plan that I want to implement. I want to do this plan. However, I am also interested in all these other ideas that we're discussing on this podcast and beyond that. But that does not fit into my work. And one of the things I've been struggling with recently is with my business, I have a direction, but I want to keep playing. I want to keep tweaking stuff. That's not going to work anymore. I know what I want to say. I know my voice. I know how to speak to people. I know what I want to. I have it all laid out for me that I have created my journey that I want to play on. But I still have this other side of my brain that needs to play. Now, up until now, it has been distracting myself with other things. But now I'm realizing where my distractions could go in is to stuff like this, where I can just deep dive into what you're doing but on a whole, like much, I wouldn't say shallower detail, maybe a slower level, and just following different trains than you do, but probably not that much. Thinking about it's like, oh, cool, right. So what's he looking at this week? Oh, crap! Yes, please.
I I must say it's funny. Obviously, this is a behind the scenes, so it's just like whatever. Just to give a bit of context, we finished the last episode, and then I showed him more about the free energy principle, more about ecological dynamics and how they change. So I did explain some of the more complex elements to it. But when you say stuff and you're like, "Oh, I've been looking into this," I'm sitting here going, "Yeah, I did that a couple of weeks ago, and I found out all this stuff." And it's just confirmation that it's kind of like that old analogy at school where like the teacher's like 2 pages ahead of you in the book. That's kind of how I feel sometimes when you're like, oh, I found this new thing. I'm like, yeah, I read that a couple of weeks ago, but where are you at? Like, what point are you at? And I kind of like throw stuff at you, and then you bring stuff back at me, and I'm like, oh yeah, I asked that question, but I didn't approach it like that. And then I reevaluate my evaluation of it. Most of the time I come out to the same conclusion, but it gives me a different perspective, so I get deeper understanding
Yeah.
of it.
And one of the things that I'm pretty good at is coming at different perspectives. That's one of the skills I have had to develop as someone on the spectrum who knows he can't get it all the time. So I like bringing I have differing perspectives in my head, which really does not translate well to content because it's like I remember your first thing around sleep deprivation of like these are all the things and they're like so what's your point? That would be every single piece of content that I would ever produce if I did most of this outside of what I do. And so I actually yeah, I just find it really interesting.
The way I see that is because I'm very similar in that I can look at things from different perspectives because I'm a very skeptical and critical individual. Part of academics is what you got to do, which is why I haven't done a video about ecological dynamics yet. Yet I've been researching it for ages because I don't know how to express this in the most cohesive way, which kind of makes it pointless making a video about it. Um, but because you have a different experience, different life experiences, you have, to use some terminology that I avoided in the episode, you have different constraints and affordances in your environment, which has impacted your offline information, which therefore impacts your actions. I don't have the same offline information as you. I don't have the same constraints and affordances, the environments as you do. So you see things that I wouldn't see in the same sense. I see things that you don't see, which is why
Yeah.
we need extended cognition to bring these things together, to bring these ideas together, to then get a more holistic view of the concepts.
I think that's something that's really lacking in both the business world and in the productivity world. Productivity world. It's that holistic view. It's the non-prescriptive, this is just an idea to play with. It's missing. It's completely not there unless you really look.
the way I see those things is like all the stuff that I have been consuming around extended cognition, ecological dynamics, information processing. They're extremely complex topics, and a lot of them on my side are extremely philosophical and psychological, and they aren't tangible, so the videos don't do well. Like, I'm watching videos that have like 20, 30, sometimes 60 views on, and then I'm comparing it to a video that has 1.3 million views on. You're like, why are they so different? Because of everyone's misconception that this one way of thinking is right.
Yeah.
Because philosophy and psychology is too difficult to grasp, so they just grab something that's easier to understand, which isn't necessarily the right way to do it, but it's the way that they do it. So yeah, and I think people's bias towards easy it's going to impact how information is shared and spread, and the conversations are there, but they're very hard to surface. They're hard to find. And the narrative at which they are currently shared, because of the complexity of the conversation, it's so hard to, like, when I'm looking for these videos, obviously most of these people aren't creators. They're not content creators. They're heavy academics. They don't give a toss about the thumbnails. Like, they don't care about the audio. It's the presentation. Like, I watched the presentation, the Edinburgh University presentation. He's using a lav mic. He must have, like, I don't know whether it was like a jumper or something. It was all the way through it. It was horrible. It was disgusting to listen to. And the camera looked like my webcam. It was like, I don't know, like probably like a 50p. It wasn't even 100p. It was just awful. It was disgusting. And it had like 400 views on. And it was like, the video was disgusting. It was horrible. But the information in there was so rich. Yeah. How do you get that out there? Like, my current approach, this is like behind the scenes. So yeah, my current approach to the thumbnail and title of this video of extended cognition is a picture of a stock image picture of a child and me pulling the phone away from the child saying, "Is this abuse?"
Yeah, because that's catchy and it's
yeah. And then the title can be extended cognition or something like that, something that search will pick up, because "is this abuse" is not going to be very well met with search. So I'm going to title it extended cognition because it's interesting, it's grabbing, but it also, when you get into like the actual video, it's going to be about extended cognition and moral dilemmas that people have, which we spoke about in the episode. So it's bringing complex topics to an audience that need to hear it, and hopefully I explain it in a way that they can grasp. But again, that is a big challenge.
Yeah, I think so. For behind the scenes of my stuff, this is what I'm doing right now with the book. We've got an outline of the book. I don't know whether we've actually said the title. Do you know the title? Have I told you the title?
You may have, but I don't remember.
Yeah. So the title of the book is Starting From You. The message is basically that idea of you're not broken. It's understanding the concepts of why you do what you do and what the fuck to do about it. Basically, it's talking about like the infinite game, the game you're playing, and being able to take full advantage of your humanity in what you do. You have frozen.
No, sorry. I was thinking. So off to the camera, because I've got mirrors all there. I'm looking. This is what I do when I want to go out into like space. You'll see it in the videos all the time where I look off to the side. It's looking at the mirror, looking through my window, looking at a mirror that's in someone else's garden, like way over there, and then it goes off into the sky up there. Because I don't know, I just like seeing it. It's very odd. My brain went, okay, you're writing a book about you and you've got an outline. And in my head, I was trying to visualize what your outline would look like. And because of my depth of understanding around what you is, what consciousness is, what psychology is, your research, I know your research into Gestalt psychology as well, and then everything we've spoken about, the extended mind, extended cognition now, I have no idea what the outline would look like or what story you would tell. And that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, so the story is very much based on Gestalt, works from Gestalt. It's like understanding it it's one book of a lot of books that are probably going to be written. Like, she's already got this. We're already planning the second book before finishing the first. This is kind of like the surface level getting started. It's like, firstly, explaining to people that actually they're not broken, because people think that there's something wrong with them fundamentally. And then it's finding the elements of themselves, and that exploration of finding the pieces of themselves that work for them, and then bringing awareness to who you are, like finding them, then actually making contact and moving into it, deciding on the action, making action, taking action, and like diving into your beliefs and values, your connection, the connection between mind, body, and quintessence, like your soul or whatever you want to call it, like the trifecta of you. Then how that's expressed through like your confidence, the relationships, your productivity, your creativity, your boundaries and limitations, and your actions. And then how you lead others and how you also follow. That's the kind of bulk of the doing part of the book. And then the final stage, which is kind of the bit that's going to be wishy-washy, is like the reflection and integration. It's like the mirror of you. So it's like being able to look at yourself and see, and not necessarily critique, but like be able to split yourself in two, which is a Gestalt exercise in itself, and being able to see both perspectives and then being able to stand back from that perspective as well. Then it's like pattern spotting and insights and figuring out and showing other examples of other people. So I'm creating another podcast, because why the fuck, I ain't got enough, there's another podcast that will go alongside the book which talks to specific people about them. By the way, do you want to come on and we can do one? Because I have a series of questions I'm going to ask everyone, which dives deep into why they build who they are and how they build. I don't have the questions, it's not properly framed yet, but you are of course on the list, because it'd be so fascinating.
Can I reference stuff?
Of course you can. Absolutely, as long as you just give me the fucking references. Don't make me go.
How many? Have I got a limit?
Oh, fuck my life. And then it's like creating your vocabulary, and then there's a bit of there are no wrong notes. I don't know whether you know the jazz quote, but it's like improvisation. This is the line we've got: improvisation lives in integration.
It's very similar to lots of other quotes from lots of other places, and I'm trying to place where I would put it.
Who knows?
Yeah,
and there is, and it's yeah.
I was going to say a question for you about the book. Then it sounds like you've got like a theory, a practical, and then a conversation going through. Is it? It's not obviously an academic book or a reference book, but will there be references to stuff in there? Because it sounds like you've got a Gestalt philosophy like foundation.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine you're going to assume everyone knows that. So are you going to cite what papers or?
There will be some citation, but I'm designing.
So I would imagine you want to avoid it.
Huh?
I would imagine you want to avoid citations.
Yeah, I am still fighting with that. I haven't got that far yet into the. It's a Gen Pop book, so citations might terrify the crap out of most people.
Maybe.
But I bet the book is only part of the conversation. There is going to be a whole selection. It's going to be an experience, not a book. Because I liked what you were saying before. The reason why you don't read books is because it's static. I want to break that. So it's static with an interactive element, with them taking action. They're writing a book whilst I'm writing a book. Well, with this book, they're writing with me the book of them. Like how they start from them. That's a thing that they're going to write while I'm writing. And there's going to be videos, audios. There's a lot more to it than just a book.
So it sounds like there's a series coming, a series of books.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got a couple of questions that I think I may ask off recording. But my initial thinking then, just around this book and you bringing up other stuff, is like, webinar courses, that type of like monetization? Is that the direction you're going? Because one of our episodes, I think it's next week, is courses and communities.
So that is an interesting question. I'm not sure whether there's going to be a course, because I do not think that this can be taught in a course. I think it could potentially be a mastermind. Absolutely could be a mastermind. I've done elements of that in the Notion mastermind that I did. There is obviously coaching. That is very much part of it. This is bringing me forward as a coach, not a tech person. I'm already beginning to be seen as a coach, but this kind of gives me that little bit of a whoof, a little bit of a boost to that by having it, a New York Times bestseller. Yeah, right.
The reason I ask is because, again, assuming information processing, I'm going to use that analogy because it's easier to grasp for most people. Worked examples allow for understanding and grasping of understanding of fundamental topics, and worked examples can be, and I would argue should be, in fairly linear explanations. So you could do it in a video. This is a worked example of this thing. This is a worked example of this thing. So in my mind, there could be a course element in there of these are the worked examples of fundamental concepts we're talking about. And
actually, I think so. Another behind the scenes.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt, but another behind the scenes thing that's happening right now is a related course to do with choosing the tools. So this is very specific and focused. And actually, that what you just said there, a worked example of figuring it out. There's a section in the course that I was going to build where I'm showing the philosophy behind the tools that I use and why I choose them. So that,
because in my head, if you've got a worked example course and then either combine that with or have it separate to maybe like an extension of, now you understand the worked examples, we can do this bit, you can move into the, okay, let's try and conceptualize what this thing means to you. So let's take away some of the things, because worked example, imagine like it's a Lego thing. You've got like 10 blocks. Worked example, you've got all 10 blocks in the video. Then we go into the conversation. I've taken out the middle 5 blocks. You need to now put your own 5 blocks in there. And then you work through with them. Obviously, that's the coaching element. And then ideally at the end of it, you don't have like 10 blocks to start with. You
periodic just have, table of you.
Yeah, you just have, here you go, here's the world.
Yeah, so actually that's really good and links beautifully. This is lovely. Thank you very much. This actually works well with, so I bought 2 domains on the call when we got the title of this book. I literally went and bought.
You're a domain hoarder, so.
Oh yeah, I'm a domain whore. I do not care. I am proud of that. Thank you. One was starting from you, obviously, and the other one was the periodic table of you, because that idea of creating your own elements of you and building a table of you is fascinating. And so what you touched on there, like with the Lego blocks, that's exactly where I think it will go in the future. And probably the next book might be the periodic table of you. I don't know yet.
Using the periodic table as a metaphor or an analogy, you could quite easily illustrate that. And you change those elements to psychological elements, physical elements, and emotional elements instead of the traditional elements. So you can use a preconception of what the table is so people can grasp that. But you're just changing the elements in there to build out, instead of a periodic table, you. And you can easily take elements out and put elements in and use that analogy in there. I can already see loads of things working. That's quite nice.
Yeah. So that is the plan. That is where the book is going. You're welcome, people. The like 50 people who watch that, you just got a behind the scenes. I might take this. Give me the audio for this, because I might use it as a podcast episode on my own channel. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording now.
He's got more questions, but you're not allowed them. Ha!
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.